Check, check. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special broadcast from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. It's good to be with you all this Friday afternoon. We've got a great program for you set up today. One I'm really excited to have the opportunity to bring you because we're going to talk about something that actually, well, it's kind of been in the news lately. Uh, so, volcanoes are always out there. In fact, I think if you just Google it, you could probably find some recent headlines having to do with all kinds of interesting and exciting volcano things that I think today we're going to find out may or may not be true. I'm not so certain. I don't trust Hollywood with their science that much. I got burned by things like Jurassic Park when I was young. And so now I'm curious, what's Hollywood doing with things like volcanoes? But you know what? I'm glad that you all could be here to go on this journey with me and to meet today's special guest. As we go throughout the program, I'll remind you all that you can interact with us via the chat. So make sure that as we go through, if you've got questions, comments, jump into the chat here on YouTube or the comments on Facebook. Let me know what you think. Leave your questions for our guest. As we get towards the end of the program, I'll be looking to you folks for questions to ask today's guest speaker, and I'll share those over, and we'll have a whole big, great conversation about today's topic, volcanoes in the media. Now, I'll be your host. My name is Chris, and I do work here at the Museum of Natural Sciences, but you're not here to listen to me talk. I think you're here to meet our very special guest, Dr. Arianna Soldati. Dr. Soldati is an assistant professor of volcanology at North Carolina State University, just up the street from us here in Raleigh at the Museum of Natural Sciences. Dr. Soldati has also worked as a National Geographic explorer, has done a children's book on volcanoes with National Geographic, among so many other accolades, has traveled the world investigating some of the most amazing volcanoes around the planet, France, Germany. I think I saw South America or Central America, all over the place. Arianna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me with you guys today. I am really looking forward to sharing some of what I have learned looking at a lot of disaster movies, as well as going through headlines of volcanic news. So again, thank you for having me, and let's just get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's go onto presentation mode. All right. So volcanoes in the movies, so many of them. There have been about 20 movies in the past 50 years where volcanoes were really the protagonist, the main character. And here you can see some of the ads for my favorites, but there's many more. And in addition to this, there's also a lot of movies where volcanoes are featured sort of in the background. But for today, we're going to keep it mainly to volcanoes having a major role. And I want to point out that this comes in waves. So for example, 1997 and 2009 have been great years for volcanoes in movies. We've had 4 or 5 each year. And then, this might fall out of favor for a few years, but eventually Hollywood always goes back to this really great subject. Okay, so we are going to be looking at some common media myths and follow them with volcano facts. And the first one that I want to tackle is volcanoes can pop up anywhere. We see these over and over again in movies. Eruption LA, Miami magma, disaster zone, volcano in New York. So this suggests that we can have volcanoes at these locations, and unfortunately, that doesn't quite match reality, or maybe fortunately, depending on your point of view on this. And this is because volcanoes need really specific tectonic settings to be able to develop. What does that mean? Well, we don't really have a pool of magma waiting to erupt underneath the crust, the surface of our planet. Magma needs to form, and the way it forms is the mantle of the Earth, the second layer beneath the crust, has to melt. And this can only happen at places where tectonic plates come together and one goes underneath the other, or when two push apart from each other, for example. And then we also have hotspots, which are special places where a plume rises from the mantle and melts some rock. But anyways, this is not just everywhere. On the majority of the surface of the Earth, there simply aren't the conditions for magma to form ever. So we're not going to have a volcanic eruption. And here you can see a map that shows where volcanoes are on the surface of the Earth. We have about 1,500 of them, and they are concentrated around the Ring of Fire, which I'm sure you've all heard about, which is where we have plates coming together and subducting, so one goes underneath the other. Then we have volcanoes here, the mid-ocean ridge, that is where the two plates come apart. And then we have a few more, such as Hawaii, that are hotspots. But definitely no chance of volcano in New York and in Miami. You can see here nothing on the east coast of the United States. No volcanoes in North Carolina either, in case you were wondering. And then it's a little bit harder to see because it looks like on the west coast there's a bunch of volcanoes, which there are, but LA is also not a place where we could ever have an eruption, because what's going on with the San Andreas Fault is two plates are just sliding past each other. So this can generate earthquakes, but no magma melting, so no volcanic eruptions. Now, sometimes volcanoes do pop up in places where they weren't before, where we didn't expect them. So this is the case of Pericutin, which is a volcano, also known as the volcano that popped up in a cornfield in Mexico. So in 1943, an eruption started in an area that was not considered to be volcanic by his owner. And the volcano started erupting and kept doing so for a few years and eventually built its own cone. You can see a picture here, and unfortunately it destroyed the nearby town. But again, this happened in a place, Mexico, where we do have the right conditions for volcanism to occur. So some of the most spectacular disaster movies are set in locations where there's a lot of people living, but no volcano could ever actually start erupting. So the next myth that I want to tackle is that lava and ash are often found together during eruptions. So for this one, we are going to watch a video clip in just a few moments. And the video clip comes from the movie Magma Volcanic Disaster. So as I play this clip, I would like you to kind of pay attention to what sort of volcanic activity you can see in here. Okay, so I'm going to start playing this now.
God, God. Look at that! Look at that!
Hey, Ariana.
Never seen anything like it.
Nobody ever has. The fact that it went off today definitely supports Falayan's exodus theory.
God. Look at that! Never seen anything like it.
Nobody ever has. The fact that it went off today definitely supports Falayan's exodus theory.
God. Look at that! Never seen.
On that one and leave this, okay?